All right there. Hey, data lovers, and welcome to another I Love Data Fridays here at the International Data Evaluation Center on the campuses of The Ohio State University. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode 32 of I Love Data Fridays, which we have titled Change Over Time. And I'm sure, Laurel, you're recognizing where the person I stole that name from with Mari's book, Change Over Time. But I thought it was a good little title here. And I've already given it away. Hey, who's talking data to you today? Well, of course, you've got me, Jeff Breimer-Bashore, Director and Principal Investigator here at the International Data Evaluation Center. But today, joining me as co-host, I have Laurel Dickey, teacher leader. Laurel, welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. It's nice to be here with you.
Yeah. So, Laurel, why don't you do a quick introduction of yourself? Where you're at and how many years you've been involved.
I'm the teacher leader for the Collaborative Reading Recovery Training Site in Northampton, Massachusetts, and I've been in this role for 25 years.
All right. So, a real veteran of reading recovery.
I suppose so.
Yeah. So, just to set the stage, folks, like I emailed Laurel like on Monday. I'm like, Laurel, what are you doing this week? So she graciously gave up her, what is today? Thursday? Wednesday. I don't even know what day it is. It's a Wednesday. So thank you, Laurel, for agreeing to help out today. So
my pleasure.
So we are going to have some fun, data fun. I thought for this episode, we'd kind of look and see how reading recovery has changed over the last 19 years. As I was, Laurel and I were prepping here, I was sort of joking that, a topic like this, how has it changed over the 19 years, can be a sort of going down the rabbit hole if you're not careful with, we could certainly look at a whole bunch of things. And so today I just kind of picked some basic things to look at. I let Laurel peek at the slides earlier, and she's already given me like 19 other suggestions to look at. So, but all good suggestions. Today we're focusing on a few, and then I'm purposely setting myself up and Laurel up for another follow-up episode. So, let's get right to it. Let's talk some data. All right. Laura, you don't hear the fancy sound effects on your side, so.
No, I just see the fancy visual effects.
So, all right, enough about sound effects. Let's talk about our first chart here. Folks, let me quickly explain what we're looking at. So we're trying to sort of ask the question, how have first grade children changed over the years? And so what I've plotted out here is the fall OS total score for three groups of students. The bottom line is our first round reading recovery students, how their fall total scores have changed over the 19 years. The next line there, that sort of bluish one, is our reading recovery second round students and their fall scores. And the top dotted one, that is our national random sample. And I think you can say in general that, over the last 19 years, first graders, including our reading recovery kids, have become more proficient or are entering literacy or entering first grade with as more proficient readers. And I'm going to address, I know you guys are all noticing that little notch around 2002, 2003 with the random sample. That is the year that we changed our random sampling procedures. And the big change that happened was that the random sample used to exclude reading recovery kids. So you lost the bottom of the random sample. And in 2002, 2003, they got included in the random sample. So now we have a more representative random sample. The last thing I'm going to point out here, and then I guess I'll open it up for conversation. Laurel, you're going to have to jump in because I'm used to talking to myself.
That's okay. I'm waiting for you to set the stage. Keep on going. You're good.
All right. Our first round kids of last year are now entering where our second round kids entered in 2002, 2003. I thought that was kind of an interesting
That's
look.
Very interesting.
I don't know what it means. I mean, it means that, our kids are still you know, they're coming in more proficient. But
Well, it tells you what's been going on in kindergartens.
yeah,
Very interesting.
you know, and I always hear the comment of people always sort of talking down about American schools, and not that there aren't problems, but I think this kind of shows that something's being done right. I mean,
At least in schools where you're implementing reading recovery.
yeah. The other thing, and Laurel, I just got done writing sort of the state of reading recovery article that IDEC does for the Journal of Reading Recovery, and I have this chart in here. It's a slightly different version. It goes back. It doesn't go all the way back 19 years. But the other thing I noted in there is that the gap hasn't changed. Like the gap between.
I was noticing that also.
Yeah.
Not only the gap between first round and second round hasn't changed, nor has the gap when compared to random sample changed in any appreciable way.
Yeah.
Even to the point where you see this drop off in 2017-18.
Yeah, and
so does the random sample.
yeah, and which I don't have an explanation for that that drop off. You know, something has changed in the. I mean, it could be just a 1 year dip, but that's a pretty, I think, interesting change.
So I do have a question looking at this.
Yeah.
Can you, where does I3 kick in? Where's the beginning and the end of I3? Remind us.
It would be, the beginning is about right there, and it ends at 2014-15. So I don't know if I3 had a.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's just interesting to know where that falls.
Though, if you look at the I3, see, it looks like we're almost starting to make a plateau a little bit, at least on the first round. Well, even the random sample, I mean, I'd have to look at the slope, but it looks like the slope is flattening out slightly. And then, of course, we have that dip that we had last year.
Then you could also, so two things that would be interesting, not only I3, but how about reading first? If you marked where that was as well, that would be interesting maybe.
Oh, well, all right. I'm curious then about, darn it, I didn't bring any piece of paper out with. All right,
I'm writing them down.
Oh, good. All right. Teamwork.
We'll come back to these.
Yeah, teamwork. All right.
You were talking about questions, and I think whenever you've got data to look at, that's what it's supposed to do, right? Is cause you to ask questions.
Yeah. I'm totally spoiling my article for JR, but but you know what? I want to share something else though.
Yeah.
Because I thought this was, so in my article, I was going to say that, you know, that a chart like this might cause you to believe that that reading recovery teachers have it a little easier now, that like the kids that they're working with aren't presenting the same challenges. And I'm trying to stall as I scroll down the document here. And so I have another chart that shows that, I think it helps combat that argument, saying that, you know.
Yes, because the gap is the same. You're still trying to help kids get up to that random sample level, and the distance they have to travel is as far as it ever was.
Right, and what I was trying to show, so in this chart, I don't know if it shows as, I can zoom in a little bit for you there, Laura.
I can see it. Yeah,
Okay,
I can see it.
It's the distribution of kids on the fall OS total score for kids in 2003, which is the bell curve on the top,
Right.
and then the 2017 is the bell curve on the bottom. Yes, we've got in 2002, 2003, there's, you know, the average would be about here, and the average would be about here in 2017.
Yes.
But the curves still cover the same amount of area. And really, it's still covering the same area with the low kids, like these kids below a 346, which, so I ended up saying in there that, you know, yes, they're certainly coming in higher, but we still are having the same range of kids that have to be served and moved now even farther to catch up to the random sample.
Yeah, it's not that we've collapsed it and made it have a higher peak. It's just that we've shifted it over some.
Yeah, so, all right, I've totally ruined my article now, so.
No, you haven't. You've given us a little preview, inspired us to actually read it and understand it.
There we go. So, all right, so read the article, folks. All right, should we move on?
Absolutely.
All right. Come on, computer. Boop. There we go. All right. So next I thought we'd take a look at the end of intervention status over time as well. We just have the school years along the bottom once again, and then we have our different end of program status categories. Our recommendeds in the orange, the recommendeds in the blue, discontinueds in the orange, recommendeds in the blue. Purples are incompletes. The moves are our sort of rust-colored. I can't believe I'm saying rust-colored. And then whatever this kind of darker sea green color is at the top is our none of aboves. And really, I'm going to put these percentages of changes up here. And the biggest change that we've seen has actually been in the number of, is the recommended kids that we've...
Hate to see this chart, Jeff.
Yeah. I originally started this idea of like, for this episode, it was originally going to be like, why is the recommended rate going up? But then I think I kind of like the change over time. Anyways, but I still wanted to keep this chart.
For me, looking at this as a teacher leader, when I see that increase of 6.1%, I think, what are we doing nationwide or across the country to try to minimize that number? And it would be useful for teachers and teacher leaders to have more opportunities to share strategies with each other, probably.
Yeah. And so I'm, oh man, that's a good segue in for my section of how do you do data? Wow. Laurel, man, she's like reading my mind here. Well, I'll do a shameless plug at the end about that. I also wonder if, and I'm trying to answer this, I think, with the next slide, if, how we said previously that our lower kids really have to be able to accelerate them even farther now than we have been. And I'm wondering if that's part of the challenge. Like, can we only, in general, a reading recovery teacher moves a child about 1.4 years of literacy growth over the year. And are we sort of reaching a point of, can we, with that bar continuing to always just go higher for classroom expectations?
Well, but you have to ask, is that going to be what you see? When you look at that random sample we just looked at, you said maybe it's plateauing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it could be plateauing. And
question.
Yeah.
But whether it's growing or plateauing, we still somehow have to decrease. That's the business we signed on for.
Yeah.
Was to decrease that 6.1%.
Yeah. The other thing I hear people comment about is they keep wanting to decrease their incomplete programs, and though it grew a little, I don't know if it grew a lot. It did sort of. It started bigger, got a little smaller in the center, and then sort of expanded again.
Yeah.
A little bit, but anywho, so.
Well, and you could tell us better than we could whether that 0.7% is statistically significant.
Yeah. All right. Should we move on to the next one?
Absolutely.
All right. So now we're going to look at the text level at the end of interventions for our recommended students, and I picked this one on purpose because of the last chart. And so I've tried to. I've put the text levels together into two-level groups. So the bottom here, we've got our kids with a text level of 2 or less, kids who are exiting with a 3 to 4, kids who are exiting with 5 to 6, 7 to 8, 9 to 10, and 12 and higher. Let me put these numbers up along the side. So we see the biggest change. The biggest change is the kids who are exiting. We're having more kids exit at 9 and 10. Laura, can I say something here real quick? Is that the big change? What I really see is that we're getting we're getting more kids exiting. Recommended kids exiting at 7 or higher. So these colors and above. So if you look over here on the left-hand side, this is about 56-ish% or so, and this is just. I'm sorry, I'm doing that backwards. That would be about 44-ish% of our kids were 7 or higher, and now it's more than 50% of the kids are exiting.
Right.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking about this graph in conjunction with the last one where we saw that the recommended population had increased, yet they're ending their series of lessons at higher text levels overall. So that's an interesting conundrum, which says we're not as satisfied as we used to be with calling kids at these levels discontinued.
Yeah. And so that's why I'm wondering if school districts are, influencing, their decisions are, they're setting the bar. Yeah, they're setting the bar higher. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
which is probably policy-wise a good idea, that for kids who may go on needing extra support, we're still having very high standards for their performance.
Yeah. But it's also interesting. We're not having a lot of, we're certainly getting a lot less kids. Well, maybe it's not a lot less kids. There's just a smaller proportion down in the lower scores. So maybe it's also a positive that we're getting better at moving the kids.
Yes. And there's a lot of conversation, I think, at least at the teacher leader and teacher level, about the stronger that you can send a recommended child on to further support, the better that is for the child. That anything we can do for them during 20 weeks in reading recovery can make a huge difference in how they go on to be able to access whatever instruction they are going to receive after that.
Yeah. So, all right.
To me, this looks like a good news chart, and it helps me feel better about the previous one.
Okay. Good. All right. Let's move on. I'm trying to remember what the next one is. Oh, yes, the English language learners. So I was kind of wondering, my mind, when I was looking at that now 2 charts ago at the discontinuing rate, I was wondering, did we see a big increase in the number of English language learners? And so what we're looking at here, folks, is just by school year, the percentage of kids who speak English and kids who don't speak English, or whose native language is not English. And really what we see is that, it has increased by about 7%, and a pretty steady increase. I don't know. When I was originally thinking about this episode, when I thought it might be, why do we have this increasing recommended rate, I was going to start this conversation by saying, I think the answer to that question has layers and complexity to it, and this might be like one small complexity to it if we're having to work with some more English language learners.
Absolutely.
But it certainly wouldn't be the whole reason behind it. I've also had a lot of, I was actually surprised it was as small as it was, the change. I've just talked to a lot of teacher leaders at conferences, and maybe maybe a lot to me seems like 3 or something, but because it's possible. I swear at TLI, I don't even know what day of the week it is sometimes, but people just tell me like their student populations are changing.
It's what the demographer, is that the right word?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, the demographers have been telling us for years, this is what we should expect to see overall in our school population. So good thing we're seeing it in reading recovery, because I think that means we're serving, a representative group of students.
Yeah.
That happening in our population as well.
Okay, yeah, I didn't even think about it like that. Okay. All right. Anything else? Move on to the next one?
Yeah, that's good.
All right. So I think I was thinking on this one, I was curious to see, I was sort of just like, well, we didn't increase by that much, but maybe more of the English language learners came to us with lower proficiency levels. And so, folks, what we're showing here is a breakdown of the English language learners by their different proficiency levels. So down at the bottom here, we have just the sliver part of it is the children who are unable to respond. And this is fall proficiency level. The next one up, that sort of lighter blue, is the kids who can do isolated words. The purple are kids who are isolated phrases. The rust orange here is the kids who can do completed sentences. this more. I'm probably going to get emails with my color descriptions here. Don't send me emails, folks. All right,
No, we can see it. It's fine.
Okay. The sea green here is more of the coherent sentences, and the very top are the kids who are articulate and proficient. So essentially, least proficient to most proficient from bottom to top. And the biggest change, to me, overall, the biggest change has come, like the center areas have become a little more bigger. So the sort of...
But I was interpreting it a little bit differently. I was thinking, well, the most proficient kids, coherent sentences and articulate and proficient, are now less represented percentage-wise in the overall population of kids participating in reading recovery, which means, yes, we are taking kids with more limited English than we did before.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, you're right, because the completed sentences went up, and also the isolated phrases kids went up.
What I don't like about it, well, unable to respond, those are the children that, I mean, Mari tells us in the observation survey book that, they need to have the ability to respond to us in the task, not to be able to be successful on the task, but to have interaction where we're understanding each other when we administer the observation survey. So that, maybe, I don't know why it would have even, why anybody would have been in that population of unable to respond is interesting.
Yeah, well, it used to be a higher percentage, and then it felt, well, not that they fell off the map, but there's nothing for a while, and then the kids creep in a little, back in a little. It would
be interesting to disaggregate the results and look at what happens to kids who start out unable to respond. That's
write that one down.
Okay.
That's a good one. I like that. That could be another layer to the onion.
But it's tiny.
Well, I know, but I think I agree. It's tiny, but I think I don't know. So the interview I did last month with Amy and Beth is like, and some of the other things I've been working on, it's the tiny changes that are going to add up. Like it's
sure. And if you find a tiny change here and a tiny change over there, then they will. Yeah.
So I don't know if, like what I'm saying is, I don't know if there is one answer to this discontinue rate thing. So, man, do we have another chart? We do. Okay, good. Laura, I forgot to ask. Anything else you wanted to say about that?
No, we're good.
Okay. So I wanted to do this next chart, and because I wanted to address maybe two things, like looking at serving students with a sense of urgency, and sort of on a similar side of that, how quickly are we getting to kids in the first round. So what I'm plotting on this chart is the bottom orange line is the average number of weeks it has taken teachers to discontinue their first round kids. And then the top blue line is the average number of days it takes for teachers to start lessons with their first round kids. Now, I don't have the first round, what we need for that data is the first day of school, and we didn't start collecting that to 2005, 2006, so that's why we see it start a little later.
Yeah.
But, I thought, I'm going to start with the orange line. I thought that line was actually going to go the other way a little bit. Like, I thought it was going to go up, but it's gone down.
No, I would say at my site, that reflects what I see. I like seeing that trend nationally as well.
Yeah.
Because, I know when I talk to other colleagues in other parts of the country, there are some people doing a lot better than my site is doing. So it's something we absolutely are striving to do in terms of minimizing number of weeks to discontinue, especially for those children who enter in the fall.
Yeah, and 18 seems to be a good number, meaning that it helps keep the number of incomplete programs from happening.
Well, and if 18 is the average and 20 is a maximum, then we've got a bunch of kids that must be coming out at 16, which is really great for fall kids.
Yeah, so teacher leaders, keep it up. That's what we're saying. Keep it up. This is good. the top line, today's the first lesson. So this is just on average how soon after the beginning of the school year are kids getting that first lesson, and it's started. What's that? That's about 33 or 34 days in the beginning, and it drops down slightly, and then it peaks up at around 36 or 37 one year.
And does that peak, does that look like that mirrors the beginning of I3?
Yeah, I3 would be about right, about just after where
it started to climb after we started I3. That's interesting.
Oh, that isn't, yeah. Huh, I wonder why
Is that about having a lot of new people in the field and new schools and...
Oh, and so people aren't as good at kind of getting the ball rolling at the start of the year.
How you do this thing, and it isn't till the next year, maybe.
Yeah, no, because then let's see, it would have ended in 2014-15, and now you've got teachers who have been in for, 3 or 4 years.
Starts to have strength again.
Yeah. So okay, that was interesting. I was wondering why we had kind of a knee like that.
Blame it on I3, right?
Yeah. So. I mean, in a good way, blame it on I3.
That's right.
So, I have a feeling that this might be our last chart. So, all right, Laurel, before I get to this last slide, all right, what do we think our follow-up questions might be then?
Across everything so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm wondering about how level of coverage affects outcomes.
Oh, that's right. Yes, you had emailed me about that.
I'm wondering about how missed lessons affect outcomes.
Oh, I can, miss.
I think that's something people have talked about some in the past, but I'd love to see your national data like this about it. I'm also thinking, so you looked at the percentage of kids and their English language proficiency designations. We also have an entry designation of labeled as learning disabled.
Mm.
And I would be curious to see see that data and think about how has that changed over time. I know at my site that has changed. We take many more kids with pre-existing IEPs than we used to.
Okay.
And so I'd be curious to see that nationally.
Okay. Yes.
And then and then did we already talk about, it'd be curious to see what our end of program text levels look like for recommended kids. It would be interesting to see that for all categories of kids.
All right. And
what kinds of end text levels are we looking at? Because I think observation survey total scores is one kind of a measure, but I think in a lot of schools, the end of year text level is the thing everybody's aiming for.
Yeah. I was having this internal monologue in my drive in this morning, not paying attention to traffic. Yeah, well, I was thinking about what to present at TLI this year, and I thought about doing 1 or 2 slides on the total score again, just to give some more examples of when we could use it and when or not so much when not to use it, but when is the total score good to use, and when are the actual 6 tasks good to use? And I had a data request from a teacher leader 2 weeks ago that showed this, is that the total score sometimes masks subtleties.
Yes.
And so subtleties that the other scores show, together. So
I agree completely. And I think at different times of year, different subtasks are more relevant. And different schools, curriculum programs mean that different school scores hold different relevances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think disaggregating it by subtasks can be very interesting and useful.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I was thinking about.
Okay. You had your last email. Folks, I want you to know Laurel sent me like 100 emails this week. I'm teasing. It was
something on one of them that I didn't even come to this time.
No, it was it was you had I don't have my emails up in front of me. It might have been the one about the learning disability. It was something else. I'll look at it later.
We'll go back to it.
Yeah, I'm teasing. Laurel didn't send me 100 emails. It was like 4. Yeah, 3 or 4. So I'm glad because I could tell your brain was working on this. So
You give me data, Jeff, and I can't help but do that.
all right. So, all right, Laurel, anything else we want to throw in here or?
No, I think we're good. I think it's all interesting.
All right, good. All right, so we have some good questions in for a follow-up I Love Data Fridays to this. All right, Laura, I'm going to wrap things up here. Let me go to my last slide here. Come on, computer, cooperate. All right, so folks, first, I want to say that we've got another episode of I Love Data Fridays where we're going to have our How Do You Do Data section in it. And that's coming in January, and it's going to be with Scott Macklin from the North Central Wisconsin Reading Recovery site. And Scott was emailed me and volunteered himself to be a part of this. We recorded it last week. I'm just editing it up now. And what I love is Scott showed me an example of 3 charts that he uses in his district in school conversations with his administrators, and they are wonderfully simple charts. Not simple that they're easy to understand and they're not cluttered with a lot of stuff, and they help drive the conversation and make the point. And what I really loved about the conversation, and I want you guys to listen to when we put it up there, is how he prepares himself and approaches these conversations with his administrator. What's his game plan as he's going in? And then he talks about even what he likes to focus on in the conversations and how he tailors his charts for those conversations. And I say it in the interview, we're going to put his charts, I don't have them now, don't go rushing up to the website right now, but we're going to put his charts, blank versions of his charts up there, and you can fill it in with your own data and use the charts that he's made to talk to data. So, all right, Laurel, this is where I'm going to let me cue the music to roll us out here. All right, folks, Laurel, thank you so much for joining me today on I Love Data Fridays.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure. I hope that all the listeners go off and dig into their own data.
All right, sounds good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks once again for listening to I Love Data Fridays, and hey, we'll talk data to you later.